Welcome back to Boom and Bust. My guest is Tal-Or Cohen Montemayor. She is the founder and executive director of Cyberwell. Tal-Or, I know you've already broached this topic in the first segment, but wouldn't mind you expanding for our audience about how pervasive online Jew hate is in the current circumstances.
Sure, absolutely. So online anti-Semitism has been a growing problem for several years now. And we've seen an added problem to that layer, which is that social media platforms are only removing reported anti-Semitism only about 25 to 30% of the time at best. So online anti-Semitism in general has been reported by Jewish communities, and especially the younger generation of Jews, as the most acute form of anti-Semitism that affects them, leading up to a third of Jewish adults that experience online anti-Semitism to take active steps to then hide their identity, both online and offline. But October 7th and the attacks by Hamas in Israel really was the most successful, I would say, hijacking of major social media platforms that acted as a flashpoint that then turned the already anti-Semitic climate online to far more violent. Cyberwell tracked an 86% increase in online anti-Semitic content in the weeks following the October 7th attacks, so nearly double. And that anti-Semitic content was decidedly more violent, and we've seen that trend persist. Now, in the last 8 months alone, I can tell you that we are down to about a 10% range of all anti-Semitic content being very violent, calls to express violence against Jewish people. But in the weeks following October 7th, that number was actually as high as 25% in total. So much higher than what we would expect to see in normal rates, including trends like calling people to come over the borders into Israel and to attack Jews in their homes and in their communities. And I should mention that Cyberwell is also doing this monitoring in more languages than one. Most of the anti-Semitism efforts that we're familiar with are doing this monitoring in English, which we do as well, but we're also monitoring this content in Arabic, which is a unique value add of Cyberwell. We saw that 62% of the content in Arabic following the October 7th attacks were express calls to violence against Jews or celebrating the violence of October 7th. So it's taken a decidedly more violent turn, and we've also seen an increase of about 50% in classic right-wing anti-Semitism, which is something that people may not know. People tend to characterize anti-Semitism as only rooted in the conflict, but we've seen opportunists who hate Jews from both sides really take this as an opportunity to flood the social media platforms with deeply anti-Semitic content, which is now even being, I would say, supercharged by AI content generation.
Yeah, in a sense, it's a battle of AI versus AI, right? You're using AI to identify and mark this kind of behavior, but the perpetrators have AI capabilities as well.
Absolutely. They have AI capabilities, and I think this is one of the biggest issues, is that our governments haven't really been able to effectively reform or guide the vulnerabilities of social media platforms, and that's before AI. Now that we have AI, misinformation, disinformation campaigns, hate campaigns that are meant to cause social unrest and decay are now being flooded into these platforms with very little guidance, transparency, and expectations of regulations from the governments on how the social media platforms are meant to be regulating this. So Cyberwell plays a role in that we know the policies of the social media platforms very well, and we're actually trying to use AI to create a compliance solution for them. But if we want to see an effective solution for the social media space in general, and I would say this threat is even more poignant now that AI is in play, we really do need governments to have a confrontational approach to this issue of regulating and reforming the social media and AI space.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. First, though, and I think you've partially addressed this, but we've seen with the recent examples with Telegram and the fights that Elon Musk is having in Brazil and so on, how responsible or culpable are these online platforms when it comes to this pervasive anti-Semitism?
Very responsible. Again, online anti-Semitism is the number one form of anti-Semitism that is affecting Jews on a day-to-day basis and making them feel unsafe. But more importantly, we've seen anti-Semitic trends come from terrorist organizations now via these social media platforms, turned into online trends.
I hate to do this, Tal-Or. Just hold that thought. We do have to go to commercial. It's an important topic. We'll pick it up right after the break. Please stand by.